Support for this podcast comes from CLR Clear. For the annoying mess you're facing down in your home, you can fight the clean fight with CLR Clear. Battle against calcium buildup. Go toe-to-toe with toilet scum. Duke it out with disposal rot. The entire line of powerful formulas works hard to vanquish dirt, grime, and deposits all around your home. So KO the crud. Fight the clean fight with CLR Clear. Visit CLRbrands.com to learn more.
We've all got a lucky friend. The one who wants a big new TV and boom, suddenly that TV's on sale. Some people always seem to get the best opportunities or the best deals. Well, now some people are all people at AT&T. Because AT&T's giving all their customers, both new and existing, the same great deals. That's right, everybody can get in on great AT&T deals all the time. Visit att.com/best deals to learn more. Restrictions apply.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
What's happening? Welcome in. My name is Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. You can find me on Twitter at JMartRadio. You can find the crew out in Los Angeles. Nick Battaglia, Brian Finley, Chris Perfett, trifecta spinning the dials radio style for me, keeping things rolling. We'll be with you for the next 3 hours. Plenty to get to, as always. Space Jam's out. Guess what? We're not going to leave with Space Jam: A New Legacy because I like you too much for that.
He's trash.
I didn't watch it. Yeah, I didn't watch it, but
garbage.
Poop Fest. We will definitely. I know
Poop
Chris
Fest.
has seen it, so there it is. So we will talk about it a little bit later on. A film I don't know that anybody needed or asked for, but here it is. And then I read, this is the sequel that we've needed for 25 years. But anyway, the Bucks beat the Suns in Game 5. And the old adage of a series doesn't begin until the home team loses. Well, funny thing happened on Saturday night. I guess the NBA Finals began. Hell of a game. Jrue Holiday with one of those kind of nights that he'll look back on for the rest of his career. He scored a lot, but he made 2 crucial plays late, including a takeaway that led to a ridiculous alley on the other side, which would then, after Giannis bonked a free throw, he went 4 for 11 at the line because that's just always going to be a thing, apparently. Chris Middleton was able to at least make 1, and now the Bucks are on the precipice of the Larry O'Brien Trophy. And for Phoenix, I was thinking going in that, man, Game 5 might be the most important game in the history of that franchise because this feels like a one-year proposition. I just heard Bernie Fratto and Mackenzie Rivers basically saying the same thing. I look at this and I say, the Suns, I won't call it luck, but they have been fortunate in terms of the way the NBA playoffs have broken. The injuries and some of the things have cleared the path for them in a way that you just don't assume will happen again. One predictor in the NFL when it comes to a team that has overperformed and is going to regress to the mean is a team that has a hell of a year but is uncommonly healthy. You see it over and over again. Everybody else is falling apart around them. They end up with an 11 or 12 win season, get into the postseason, maybe even make it to the divisional round and lose. They're out. That team's going to regress the next year because health generally doesn't just carry over, especially not in the NFL. Well, the Suns are the equivalent of the really healthy NFL team because they have managed to keep most of their key contributors upright and available throughout the postseason. But whereas the Bucks have an MVP candidate and a former MVP in Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Suns have Chris Paul at his age, Devin Booker, who is a stud, and DeAndre Ayton, who is finally really coming into his own, had another double-double on this night. you just don't look at that roster and say that roster is coming out of the West again. And I think Phoenix fans know it. 27-9 at home, 51-21 in the regular season. And Monty Williams is a hell of a coach, but it had to be this year. And that's kind of what they were saying on Straight Out of Vegas, and I tend to agree. That's why I'm just going to crib note it real quick and Cliff's Notes what you just heard. I just don't think this is a long-term proposition as it stands now, and that's if Chris Paul comes back, if he doesn't go to L.A., which has been speculated. But you think about what happened with the Nuggets not having Murray. You think about, obviously, what happened with the Lakers. You think about the Clippers, and maybe they're not going to have Kawhi for a good bit of next season either. And then you think about teams like the Jazz. Mitchell was hurt pretty much from the beginning of that series on. He wasn't himself, even though he played awfully well. He could have played better. There's just a lot of things crumbling around the Suns, and the Suns were able to be that kind of just shining city on a hill. They were just the tower in the midst of everything else falling around them. But next year, everybody else is going to have those towers. Who's to say the Suns don't have health issues? Or if they don't, who's to say everybody else is going to have the same ones? This was a year that felt different. When asked to predict this series before it began, I said, I think the Bucks have the better overall roster, but it just kind of feels like it's the Suns' time because it has the entire postseason. It's all broken their way. Well, now they're on the brink of elimination. Can they win 2 against Milwaukee? Absolutely they can. Absolutely they can. I mean, this is a team that was up by 16 at the end of the first quarter. It was 37-21. Problem was Milwaukee just bludgeoned them in the second, expanded a little bit in the third, and even though Phoenix made a run there in the fourth, certainly, it was Milwaukee's game for about 65 to 70% of it. And it ends 123-119. The good news is it's been a good series. It really has. I don't know what the ratings are going to say. I don't know that it matters. It might matter to the NBA, but it shouldn't matter to you if you're a basketball fan. It's hard not to have watched Game 5 and come away feeling like you were robbed of something. Devin Booker, 17 of 33. That's a lot of shots to get 40 points, but that's what that guy's always going to do. He still made over 50% of that number. Didn't take a lot of free throws. 2 of 4 from 3, but he was a plus 12 on the floor. Just a scoring dynamo. Ayton gave you 20 and 10, like I said, and it was a very efficient 20 and 10 because it was 7 of 12 from the field. He made all 6 of his free throws. That right there is a stat line for a center that you can win a championship with. That's somebody you can build with right there. DeAndre Ayton is here. He has finally arrived. It took him a little bit longer, but he's there. Needed more from Bridges than you got out of him, I think, offensively in the game. He gave you 13 points. Chris Paul, 21. 21 from Chris Paul should be enough, usually. Like, you might like to see 25 to 28, and maybe that's what he needed in an NBA Finals game. But 21 and 11 assists, just 1 turnover. Not his best game, but he didn't take a single free throw in this game. He made all 3 of the threes that he took. He was 9 of 15 from the floor. Like I said, it's not a terrible performance by anybody. That's what I'm saying. This was the kind of game you wanted to see. 68% from 3 for Phoenix in this game, and they lost. They were 13 of 19 from beyond the arc. Nearly 70% from 3 as a team, not one guy, as a team. And they lost. Shot 55% from the field, 91% from the free throw line, and they lost. Only took 11 free throws. Then you look at the Bucks. Giannis had 32 because Giannis is pretty much, you can pencil him in for 30-plus just about every game. You can also pencil him in for probably not great free throw shooting. 1 rebound shy of a double-double. Middleton has arrived over the last couple of games, 29 points. But it was Jrue Holiday that I think, when it comes right down to it, it's his plays down the stretch in the fourth quarter in that last 15 to 20 seconds that got the job done. And now, again, all the Bucs have to do is win on their home court. Now, Phoenix is going to be a tough out at this point, I think. There was definitely reason to believe no road team was going to win in this series because of the way it had been played up to this point and the way that the home team, it's always the same. The role players showing up at home. The reason why a series begins when a road team wins is because it means that somebody else showed up on the road where they're not necessarily expected to. You're expected to have your role players, when they're comfortable in their gym, perform at a higher level when their comfort zone is highest. Connaughton gave you 14 again. Bobby Portis gave you 9 in this game. But this was not a big, deep bench kind of game. 8 guys suited up. 8 guys played in this game for the Bucs. 8 guys played in this game for Phoenix. We didn't have 11, 12 deep. We had 7 coaches' decisions for Phoenix and 6 for the Bucs. This was very much a starter-led game with a couple of guys getting near double. We'll see, between Connaughton and Portis, they gave you 23 points. I think there's really the difference. There's role players giving you 23, just 2 guys. Now, Teague played for just a second, but he didn't score. But you had 15 points total from the bench for the Suns. So if you take everything in totality, the bench contributors showed up in a bigger way. Johnson in particular for the Suns, I'm looking at his plus-minus rating right now. He's a minus 19 on the floor. That's not what you're looking for. And Booker's always going to be a volume shooter. If he takes 33 shots to get 40 points, I think Milwaukee will take that. That said, this is a 4-point game. This was not a blowout. This was just a great basketball game. This was an NBA Finals game where everybody was playing their guts out. And maybe it's not the Suns' time. Maybe it is. Maybe next week we're going to come back here and say, wow, Game 6 and 7 to Phoenix, it really was their time. But I think if you just look overall at the rosters, I still think you feel a little bit better about Milwaukee just because of some of the experience there. When you look at Booker, when you look at Ayton, when you look at Bridges, those are 3 guys that you like going forward, but they're also so young. And they're just growing up. They're like toddlers right now. Before this year, before this postseason, they weren't able to walk yet. They weren't even able to roll over. Now they're crawling. And then you hope that this is kind of the thing that gets you to the next stage. Usually in the NBA, you take a couple of steps before you can win a championship. Milwaukee has it in their grasp. Giannis knows it. Chris Middleton knows it. Jrue Holiday knows it and played like it. If they can just get one more like this, then we won't have a Game 7. I kind of hope we do. I don't necessarily have a huge dog in this fight. I just want to see good basketball. And I feel like that's what we were treated to on Saturday. Now, the officiating at times in this series, we could have different discussions about, but you can always have discussions about the officiating. I'd rather focus on guys doing good things. And you had a lot of guys, and a lot of the ones that you hope were going to play well that did play well. All the stars came out to play. Showed up, showed out, and as a result, you got a wildly entertaining game. The best game, I would say, that we've seen in the NBA since Game 7 with the Bucks and the Nets, which also happened to be a Saturday night game where I came in here just a few hours after it ended and talked about everything under the sun for at least an hour just about that one game because there were so many storylines coming out of it. But my fingers are crossed for a Game 7. Not just because I'm a sports fan and that's an easy thing to do, but because, I mean, there are some ways where this could be a series where I'm not all that interested in it. So let's get to the finish line. Training camp, not too far away. Hall of Fame game, not too far away in the NFL. We're almost to football season. We're almost past this spot. But the NBA's got time to give us 2 more. And if they're going to give us 2 more like they gave us on Saturday, you can bring that on all day long. When we come back, Damian Lillard denies a trade, but what does he want? Because I think those two things might be opposed. Plus, why is anyone talking about Ben Simmons for Damian Lillard? I'm Jason Martin, and this is Fox Sports Radio.
Fox Sports Radio has the best sports talk lineup in the nation. Catch all of our shows at foxsportsradio.com. And within the iHeartRadio app, search FSR to listen live.
It's crazy how much we have to pay for outdated, impersonal healthcare, and even crazier that we all just accept it. It's time to face facts. Healthcare is backwards. Luckily, there's Forward, a new approach to primary care that's surprisingly personal and refreshingly straightforward. Forward never makes you feel like just another patient. Backed by top-rated doctors and the latest tech, Forward gives you access to personalized care whenever you need it. Using in-depth genetic analysis and real-time blood work, Forward's top-rated doctors provide you with in-depth insights to better understand your genetics, mental, and physical health. They then create custom, easy-to-understand plans to help guide you to achieving long-term health. With Forward, you get unlimited in-person visits with your doctor and access to care anytime via the Forward app, all for one flat monthly fee. It's time to stop accepting backwards healthcare and start moving your health forward. Visit GoForward.com today to learn more. That's GoForward.com.
This one's too easy. I'm not even going to guess.
I'm not even trying to play a game with you on this one.
No. I mean, you just said the title.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear some Counting Crows.
I love this song, man.
We've been doing this 2 years. I don't think I've played Counting Crows as a bounce back ever.
I don't think you have either. I'm fine with it. Actually, it's on multiple playlists on my phone. It's Mr. Jones, Counting Crows, Adam Duritz, August, and everything after. I'm going to try to give every possible other thing. It is the Jason Martin Show here on Fox Sports Radio. I'm Jay Mart. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Crew's in L.A. Damian Lillard's in Portland. The question is, does he want to be? Henry Abbott, True Hoop, said Lillard was going to ask for a trade. Lillard came out after a USA basketball practice, denied it, said, no, I expect to be in a Blazers jersey. But he at least kind of said, I want to see some urgency from the Portland Trail Blazers. Lillard's under contract till 24. They've made the playoffs 8 years in a row. And they've gone out in the first round per Stats and Info for the past 5 years. He's now 31 years old. Here's what he said. The best way to put it is to be more urgent about what our next step is and how we move forward. We're not a bad team. We're a winning team. We've got a great environment. We've got a great city. We got great fans. There's a lot of positives. I just think we've reached that point where it's like, okay, it's not enough. Do we actually want to win it all? Is that what we're shooting for? We got to do things to show that. We got to put action behind that. That desire to win at that level, that's been my only thing this entire time. Okay. Over the past 2 years, I would say half a dozen times I've talked about Damian Lillard in a featured spot in the midst of a segment on this program. And usually I've said the same thing. Damian Lillard is so much fun to watch, and he's an all-time great player. And I don't know that you can win a championship with him being the best guy on the team. Because I was thinking, who's coming to Portland to win a title? His problem is, or maybe I should say it this way, if you can win with Damian Lillard, but I don't know if you can do it in Portland. Because who's going to Portland to play? Who's excited about joining that franchise that's somebody that will move the needle enough that can actually get you over the hump? And by over the hump, I mean into the NBA Finals with a championship. As long as you're the Portland Trail Blazers and you're happy just to make the postseason, you're going to do that for a couple more years at least. Probably 3-4 more years if Dame is still there. But the team that they have run out there with Dame and CJ McCollum, at least since probably 2018, was doomed from the start. It just was never going to be good enough to get them where they needed to go. Damian Lillard says, be more urgent about what our next step is. What are you asking for? LeBron isn't coming there. Anthony Davis isn't coming there. Zion Williamson, I don't think, is coming there. Those are the guys that you're talking about. Like, you need another superstar player because you have a 1 and a 3, maybe. CJ McCollum is a great piece on a championship team, but he's not going to be the second best. Right now, the Blazers are the Raptors with Lowry and DeRozan, except that Lillard is much more consistent, I think, than Lowry as a postseason contributor. But Lillard's been banged up a lot. He's played an insane number of minutes in his career because he's had to get them into the playoffs. A lot of times he has to just play his you-know-what off, and he's worn out. A lot of times he gets into the postseason, and you can start to see him wear down. So he is speaking to management and saying, help me. And I'm saying, in Portland, I don't want to trade, but I got to say, I want to see some urgency with this franchise. He doesn't want to say that report is true, but what does he actually want? Because the report itself may not be true. He may not have been planning to say anything about a trade at that moment. But admitting it publicly at that stage wasn't necessary either. So he can say, no, I'm not ready to ask for a trade yet. But urgency, Blazers. He is greasing the skids to get out of there. Because I think the truth under it all for Damian Lillard is, I think he knows it ain't going to happen where he is. That's a great organization. They really are. And they have awesome fans. It's a great home court environment. But they're starting over with a new coach. They've basically just been doing the same thing over and over again and hoping one of these years it was going to get them somewhere. Eventually, if you have a star player, if you have a superstar player, but you're not winning championships, what are you doing? Do you just keep on doing that year after year, knowing that it's never going to produce the ultimate reason that you're there? Or do you blow it up and start over? Do you risk falling into real obscurity for a while in terms of your record, playoff appearances, all of that, to have a shot at something new, because the something old, even though it's familiar and even though you like it a lot, it's not getting you to the promised land. You're stopping short of Canaan, Moses. You're not getting over there. Damian Lillard, you've seen different rumors here. The dumbest rumor that I have seen is this idea, or maybe it's not even a rumor, but this idea being floated that it should just be straight up Philadelphia, Damian Lillard for Ben Simmons. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're Portland and you're wanting to rebuild, I don't think I want to rebuild with a guy that seems broken. I need my bricks. I need my bricks building something up, not clanging off the rim. I need the confidence to already be there. Like, if I'm getting rid of Damian Lillard, I know what it means. Or if I'm allowing that to happen, if I'm going to give him maybe what he's about to ask for, or what he's starting to, show a few signs, writing a few cave paintings to let people know there's some smoke signals going up right now, Maybe he's going to want out. You don't want to get Carmelo Anthony in this deal, Denver. But Ben Simmons? What are you going to do with Ben Simmons in Portland? Does Ben Simmons want to be in Portland? And if he doesn't, then what do you have? Because you have a guy that's already kind of in a mentally unstable spot in terms of his game, and then you put him there, it could be a total disaster. I saw that, it's just like, oh boy, but think about what that would mean for Philadelphia. I get that. I understand 1,000,000% why Philadelphia would want to go grab Damian Lillard. I just have no idea why Portland would have interest in Ben Simmons, because if I am running a team right now, I'd better have a lot of guys that I like before I bring in Ben Simmons. The situation better be perfect for him, because you're trying to build him back. Ben Simmons is right now, to me, the NBA equivalent of Carson Wentz. Wentz may have fallen right into the perfect spot. I will have to see that before I believe it, or in the words of Patrick Mahomes, I'll have to believe it before I see it. I know Frank Reich's there and all of this, but I've got to see it because I thought that dude was broken last year, if not before, with the stories that came out. Tell me that it's not a comparison that's worthy of making, where Ben Simmons, who can still do a lot of things that you like, just like Carson Wentz is capable of doing a lot of things that you like, just seems broken. Seems broken on the inside. Broken as an athlete, broken as a player, broken as a contributor. If Ben Simmons can't score at his position, he becomes a liability on the floor. I mean, that dude passed up a dunk in the playoffs. He's so afraid of getting fouled because he shoots like 30% from the free throw line. And I'm Portland, or I'm a Blazers fan, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, Damian Lillard's going to go, but at least we're going to get Ben Simmons. Nope. In the immortal words of Mike Singletary, can't win with him, can't coach him. And that's not me rooting against Ben Simmons. I said before, I want to see him get it back on track. I know what kind of a stud he could be. I want to see it. But he's been in the league for like 5 years, and it hadn't come around. Why in the world would Portland want that deal? I guess because they don't want to get completely just left out in the cold. I feel like there's better out there. But the bigger question is, when Lillard says urgency, what is urgency? What is it that would satisfy that requirement for Damian Lillard? And I think the answer is there's not going to be one. And that's going to make it more sympathetic when he asks for the trade. I think he's got sympathy now because eventually there has to be a split there because they're not going to get a championship in Portland with the makeup that they have. And Damian Lillard has to get money. He has to be paid properly. The way it's all set, that team, the way that money is already sort of in place, what are you supposed to do? Lillard is upset. He's not mad. He's disappointed. He's frustrated because he's giving his all, and they're getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Now he's about to go to Tokyo. He leaves, I guess, Monday with the team. Blazers then have no draft picks. And then they've got free agency. The way this ESPN article finishes up the Lillard stuff says Lillard said he expects to be in a Blazers uniform next season, which I told you, but also left himself a lot of wiggle room. Quote, I haven't made any firm decision on what my future will be. A lot of things go into it. He's going to meet with Chauncey Billups, and Billups is going to have to sell him. And Billups is capable of selling him. But I think more than anything, Lillard denied this report because this isn't a report that he was ready to have come out. Or if it was leaked, it was leaked for him to deny it, but also just to put it out there into the ether so that later on, okay, yeah, we were looking for urgency, but now we've gotten through free agency. We've gotten past the draft. We see what this team's going to look like, and I feel like it's time for a conscious uncoupling. Or as Gwyneth Paltrow, I think, called it when they had their breakup, her and Chris Martin from Coldplay, a tender undoing, which is still one of the lamest phrases in the history of the English language. But Damian Lillard right now is just he's setting the stage, then he's going to go hopefully try to win a gold medal, and then he's going to come back. Prediction time. Is Damian Lillard a trailblazer next season? My answer is no. I just think they're going to figure out, and I think Portland knows they can't win unless they make some kind of giant move, and I don't know where that move's going to come from. I don't see it sitting in front of me. Like sometimes you can see, oh, well, they can go get this guy, and there's rumors of this guy wanting to go there, and if they get this guy, they got a real shot, then they're a contender. Right now, they're not a contender, and they're never a contender. They're just a contender to be good. They're never a contender to be a championship. How many seasons do you want to win 45 games? Even once in a while, maybe you win 50. And then you go into the playoffs, and you limp yourself right back out of it, and you end up in another country celebrating the offseason as other teams are playing in the conference semifinals. Eventually, something's got to give. I think that something is Lillard saying urgency, knowing there's nothing they can really do, probably, and that being kind of the way to set the stage for his eventual exit. Let's bring in Brian Finley now and get a look at the latest, including Bucks winning Game 5.
That is right, Jason, and also LeBron James was courtside. I guess if you can't play in the game, you can attend the game as a fan, and I guess that's almost like playing in it.
Yeah, it's not. It's absolutely not. The only thing worse than watching the NBA Finals, if you are LeBron James, is Space Jam.
Yeah. I wonder, Jason, if LeBron was out there doing that to be seen as like an indirect promotion for his movie. Like,
yeah, I don't know if it was needed.
Yeah. What wasn't needed was, what was needed for the Bucks, I should say, is Jrue Holiday's defense down the stretch, which helped Milwaukee beat the Suns 123-119 in Game 5 on Saturday in the NBA Finals to give Milwaukee a 3-2 edge. Holiday, a juggernaut on D, shutting down Devin Booker when the Suns had a chance to win it late. Afterwards, here's Bucks head coach Mike Budenholzer noticing Holiday's grade A defense.
I thought, the steal earlier in the game was a big play, and then the steal late, just, I think it's just an instinctive play. He's incredible defender and strong hands, and got in there and took it.
Meanwhile, in that plus-minus category in the stat sheet, Holiday a plus 14, which was the best out of anyone on either roster in the game.
Where did he play in college?
UCLA.
Yeah, I knew you'd have that answer very quickly.
Yes. I should have said former UCLA Bruin and blah, blah, blah. No, I wouldn't be that partial. But Game 6 is on Tuesday in Milwaukee for a chance to see the Bucks close out the series. Meanwhile, the Padres-Nationals game on Saturday was halted in the 6th inning when gunshots were fired just outside the Nats Stadium. 2 cars in front of the ballpark exchanged gunfire. The incident wounded 3 people, including 1 female who was at the game. Fox Sports Radio's Rob Parker was at the game. He is fine, as are his friends who he went to the game with. In fact, Rob posted a video on his Twitter explaining what happened. He said he's okay, just shaken by what took place. The game will be finished on Sunday, so later today at 1:05 Eastern. San Diego is up in this game 8-5. Once that contest concludes, they will then play the series finale later in the day. Meantime, the Dodgers sting the Rockies 9-2. Walker Buehler quickly to 10 wins on the season. The Braves with a 9-0 dominating victory over the Rays. Jock Peterson, a new Brave, socks a 2-run blast. I know Jason Martin's probably pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I'll take it. We'll take it.
You guys aren't far away from the playoff picture. The Cardinals overcome the Giants, who are firmly in the playoff picture. 3-1. Paul Goldschmidt had a 3-hit, 2 RBI game. And believe it or not, we've got live sports going on over, well, a little bit, I guess you would say, east of where we are in the United States. The Open Championship final round is underway, and Louis Oosthuizen is your leader, 12 under, with a 1-shot lead ahead of Colin Morikawa, and Oosthuizen does not tee off until about 9:35 a.m. Eastern. So he's got a lot of time, but the guys at the bottom of whoever made the weekend have just started, just the first couple groups. So a lot more time before we get the big dogs out there. Speaking of a big dog, let's get it back to Jason Martin.
Did you say you weren't going to be partial enough, or you weren't going to be that partial? Did you not put up a video on social media suggesting Drew Holiday should be the MVP of the NBA Finals?
You just called me out, but I have to say, while I am a little bit partial, am I not wrong? I mean, I have to be right.
Settle down just a little bit.
There is no way. Look, I know that there is this love affair with offense, and there's a fondness over that, and that leads to people being biased and going with an MVP, going with the offensive stat sheet. But there's no way, if the Bucks win this series, that they do it without the suffocating defense of Drew Holiday. And his offense sure has been up and down, but my goodness, there is no way this is a victory or a series that goes to Milwaukee. If it
Look, I don't disagree with you. I just want you to prepare yourself for Giannis being MVP if they win the series.
I understand that when you have 40-plus point games like he is, and then you throw that nasty jam, sure. But even if Giannis is scoring that much, if you don't have Holiday, there's no way you're winning.
You're right.
So what he's doing would be like Devin Booker, where he's putting up 40 points and they're still losing, sort of thing.
Nasty Jam. That should have been what they called Space Jam 2.
Yes.
Then would have made sense.
You know, Jason, I would rather watch a 9-part series running 18 hours on candle making by Ken Burns than watch Space Jam 2.
I would rather be a spectator at my own autopsy.
Hold up. That is a lot of disrespect being put on Ken Burns' name right there. I'm sorry.
Well, dude, that's twice he's gone after Ken Burns. You're not a Ken Burns fan, Finley?
Well, it's just fascinating how he taps into things that are things that we would not really talk about in our own pop culture, like 17th century archery.
PBS. Yeah.
Dude, he did baseball. And the Civil War. And country music.
The music on the Civil War documentary is still some of my favorites.
Yeah, it is. Man, this is sideswiping. Finley just sideswiping Ken Burns out here. It's getting nasty on these streets.
I know where this is coming from, too, because we played Would You Rather last night on the Jonas Knox Show. Would you rather do this than watch Space Jam 2? And I think Brian Fenley got tagged in a few of them. People just taking shots. So this is him trying to come back with his own swipes here.
I did not know. Like I said, I would rather be just to take it. I'll answer a day late for the Jonas Knox Show. I would rather be a spectator at my own autopsy than watch Space Jam 2. Enjoy Spotlight comfort and save big on your water bill with a Navian tankless water heater. Go tankless with Navian. You can save hundreds on a new Navian tankless water heater with local rebates. Visit tanklessmadesimple.com. When we come back, Perfett, I know, Chris P., I know you have seen Space Jam 2. We will get your review. And we might have to lambaste ESPN for giving us about 30 seconds of analysis during an entire halftime filled with over 12 minutes of commercials. That's not a joke, folks. That was actually tabulated back in Game 4. I'm not sure if they fixed it for Game 5, but it's an absolute atrocity. We'll be right back. I'm Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. Welcome back. I'm Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. Across the country, wherever you are, glad you made us part of whatever it is that you're doing. We're on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at JMartRadio. So, Space Jam, A New Legacy, I think is what it's called. Space Jam 2, whatever. LeBron's version of Space Jam came out on Friday. Saw it pop up on HBO Max. And I was like, nah, I'll pass. It's been 40, I guess next year will be the 50th anniversary of The Godfather. I figured I should probably see that at some point. I've owned the DVD set for like 20 years, which could bring up another topic that is, what things do you own that you've never seen, read, or heard, depending on whatever the media is. Video games you never played, all that kind of stuff, but you've owned them forever. I've had The Godfather trilogy for I don't know how long, haven't watched it. I ended up watching this thing on Peacock. Regardless, Space Jam came out. 2 of the 3, I bet you Finley hadn't seen it, but Nick Battaglia and Chris Perfett have both seen it, and I need to know, fellas, was it a 9 or was it a 10?
It was, let's reverse that 9, put it upside down, and then shave off, I think, about 3 points from it.
Well, I was going to say maybe 9 out of 100.
Yeah, that's a good place to be. So Look, this is interesting because I'm watching the discourse on the movie now, and
why is there discourse on Space Jam?
I think the defense has somehow become, look, the first movie wasn't as good as you remember, so it's okay for the second movie to be bad, which I vehemently disagree with completely. Like, I don't even understand how that's an argument to begin with, or that. But I'll say this because now it's becoming like, okay, well, it's supposed to be a kids movie, and I'll give it this. It does all right as a kids movie, but that wasn't what it was sold on. It was sold as being a nostalgia trip for adults to convince those adults who had seen the first Space Jam to take their kids to see the Space Jam 2 and buy into that. At which point, mommy and daddy are probably going to be pretty damn disappointed at this movie. Their kid will probably enjoy it for a while, but the first half of the movie, first off, this clocks in at 2 hours, which is just dreadful.
Wow, I would have thought it had been 90 minutes.
Well, this is where it gets worse. The climax scene, the basketball scene, the game scene is a full hour. It's a full half of the movie, Jason.
One game?
The one game, yes.
What is it played in real time with timeouts?
No, it's not. It's that is an hour of the movie that they are dedicating to this CGI scene. So you lose the animated, like the traditionally animated Looney Tunes very quickly straight to the CGI. And the thing there's a lot that's been made about all of the inserts, all of the Warner Brothers properties that crop up in the background. That didn't distract me as much, although there were certainly a lot of cringe moments while they were trying to get... Some stuff worked, like Wile E. Coyote in the Mad Max thing, that worked. A lot of the other stuff did not. But so it was very uneven. There was a couple things that worked, like the Michael B. Jordan shows up for a really great joke. There's another great joke with Marvin the Martian I enjoy, but I just keep coming back to this. The first 25 minutes of this movie, I am shocked LeBron James read this script and signed off on it, because the first 25 minutes make him look like such a jerk of a father, it's galling. Like, I know the whole point of the movie is his growth with his son, but it's just so... The implication is that up until this point, up until these championships with the Heats and Lakers, he was a jerk of a human being. Which maybe that's true or not, but that's not, if I was LeBron James, how I would want to be portrayed in this movie. He's just a jerk to everyone except his wife, and I don't understand it.
Weird.
It was galling, but yeah, it just, the whole rest of the experience was just, wasn't a great experience. Half the movie was manic, ran around, and crammed way too much in to start, and then you just got galled with an hour of a basketball game that just wasn't good.
Well, we'll get Nick's thoughts on the other side. I know we're at the end of the hour here. I don't know that I need an hour of a basketball game there. I don't know if it works for 24. That was a good gimmick. I don't know if Space Jam needed to borrow it.
Fox Sports Radio has the best sports talk lineup in the nation. Catch all of our shows at foxsportsradio.com. And within the iHeartRadio app, search FSR to listen live.
Hey, I'm John Middlecoff, and I host the 3 and Out podcast. Do you like football? Do you like the NFL? Do you like the NFL draft? Quarterbacks, coaches? Well, I talk about it all on the show. I used to work for Andy Reid as a scout. Now I give you my unfiltered and raw opinions on everything that goes on in the NFL. And you know we're talking college football because of how important the draft is year-round. Listen to the 3 and Out podcast with me, John Middlecoff, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Support for this podcast comes from CLR Clear. If stubborn shower mold has you miffed, or you're hard-pressed to get rid of hard water buildup, it's high time you kick your so-so cleaning products to the curb. It's time to fight the clean fight with the CLR Clear family of products. CLR Clear knows there's all kinds of dirty, which is why they offer products to help you take on messes all around your home. So go on and fight off that countertop crud. Square up with those carpet stains. Go crazy on your garbage disposal gunk. CLR Clear has formulas to help you get the dirty deeds done. Plus, many of their products meet the EPA's Safer Product Standard. So while tough on messes, it's still the safer choice for your family and the environment. Show dirt and grime around your home who's boss with CLR Clear and fight the clean fight. Learn more about the entire product lineup by going to CLRbrands.com.
What's happening? Second hour of the program. I'm Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. On Twitter at JMartRadio. The crew, Nick Battaglia, Brian Finley, Chris Perfett. In Los Angeles, trifecta spin of the dials radio style for me. Game 5 in the books. Bucks win a great one, 123-119. Jrue Holiday with defensive player or defensive play of the year, certainly kind of stuff. On one end with the robbery, and then an alley on the other side to Giannis Antetokounmpo, which, that all transpired there in the last 15 seconds. Giannis would step up to the line. He got fouled on the alley, and it was a ridiculous play all around. And then, of course, he missed the free throw because that's what he does most of the time. He's 4 for 11 in this game. Then Middleton, the miss was so bad that it went right to the Bucks. The miss was so bad that it was almost impossible. It was a long rebound and a tap back from Giannis. Middleton ended up with it. He got fouled, missed the first one, but made the second one. That gave him the 4-point lead, and that's how they would win the game. And now Milwaukee has a chance to win it on their home floor in 6. And this is the first time, of course, a road team has been able to get one. And now Phoenix has to win 2 in a row. And we'll see whether or not they can do it. We were talking Space Jam at the end of the hour. And Chris let me know, because I haven't seen it, that basically the second hour was, first off, I can't believe it was 2 hours. That's nuts. But the entire second hour, just about, being the basketball game. I don't know that Space Jam needs to replicate Jack Bauer. I think it works for 24. Huge fan of the first 5 seasons in particular of that show. Don't know that that's what we need in Space Jam. Don't know that's what is going to be best unless they have a whole lot of solid, clever dialogue going on. And I'm a little skeptical. Nick Battaglia also saw Space Jam. I don't know why that was the selection you guys needed to make within 24 hours. It showed up and you guys were right there for it. But Nick, do you agree with Chris that it didn't quite work for you, or is this one going to be a permanent rotator for you in terms of your pop culture?
I don't know if it's going to be a permanent rotator for me, but I will say this. I did have fun with the movie. Going into it, I knew what it was going to be. I knew it wasn't going to be the best movie I'd ever seen. I knew it wasn't going to be the best animated movie I'd ever seen. But for what they do with it, it just works in terms of just, I had fun with it. And if you're going in expecting a Pixar-level storytelling or an amazing movie, you're going to be severely disappointed. I will agree with Chris. They do a lot of pop culture references that you kind of wish they did more with than what they did with them. But overall, I had fun. And I think also going back to the first Space Jam, which was released in 96, I think what makes the first Space Jam stick in a lot of people's minds, outside, of course, Michael Jordan being in the movie, is that the soundtrack itself is so phenomenally known because you had so many big artists. You had Busta Rhymes, you had Coolio, LL Cool J, Method Man, Seal. A lot of big heavy hitters from the 90s were on that soundtrack. And I think that plays a big role in how people remember and view Space Jam. Because again, you can go back to Space Jam, the first one, and be like, oh yeah, it's not that great. But that soundtrack, though, is what I think brings it up a couple notches. Whereas with this one, the soundtrack was very end. They had a couple remixes, I should say, of some of the older songs that were in the first movie. But again, I had fun with it. Is it going to be something I'm going to watch over and over again? No, but if I have an afternoon to kill, or if you're somebody who hasn't seen it and you have an afternoon to kill, yeah, I'd watch it.
The thing for me as someone who really enjoys 2D animation is that second Space Jam came the first Space Jam came when we were kind of having a revival of 2D animation, right? That was when Beauty and the Beast had kind of made people realize you could do 2D animation again. This one, again, I just feel miffed because they really rushed through the 2D animation. They couldn't wait to get to the CGI, to the 3D animation, and it has no soul to it. It has no heart to it. And it was better than anticipated as far as the CGI, but still, as you say, I don't know if I needed more with the pop culture references. I don't think I needed as many. I certainly didn't need the Droogs from the Clockwork Orange in the crowd distracting me. Wow. Yeah. This thing is odd. Crammed with every war. The funny thing is, so Don Cheadle's character is supposed to be an sentient algorithm. and he wants to put LeBron in like all these movies because the algorithm says that's what's going to be popular. But then Warner Brothers also wants to have it the same way and wants you to remember all of the cool things that they're putting the Looney Tunes and LeBron next to, which is all their properties and all their old movies and all their old library. So it's manic in that regard. You can't have it both ways. You can't be like, yeah, it's kind of, isn't this stupid how we're making a bunch of movies that are basically focus tested to hell, but then also at the same time your movie is focus tested to hell. You can't do that.
You know it's not a success when even the audience score at Rotten Tomatoes isn't working out. Like, it's like the critics score, whatever, right? Like, yes, I've written about film and television for a long time, and I have my opinion. I reviewed Roadrunner, the Bourdain film. At least I wrote it a couple of days ago. I saw it last month. I'm in the process of going through the second season of Ted Lasso right now. There's several things that I'm kind of working up. And generally, I say the same thing. Sure, I want you to read what I write. I want it to be worth the time that I wrote it, just that maybe you saw it, maybe you liked it. But at the same time, I also don't want it to feel like it's the gospel. Like, if you dig something or if you think you're going to dig something, then you should watch it whether or not anybody tells you to or not. But when you do see an audience score that's low, that might make you pause a little bit. When the critics and the public and their spam selves still can't bring the number up, or maybe they don't want to, then maybe you have a problem there. I don't know why 3D animation needed to happen at all. Like, I think the point of nostalgia there would be to just keep it as true to the 1994 version and update it. Give us more of The Force Awakens for a new generation, as opposed to, because it wasn't going to be Pixar. It wasn't going to be DreamWorks. It wasn't going to be something like that. So you keep it simple and bring people what they wanted, as opposed to trying to shoehorn in a bunch of new technology that may or may not work. And I think that most of the people watching Space Jam, I feel like, I could be wrong, I don't know how many kids are clamoring for Space Jam. I feel like the people wanting to see Space Jam are the people that were alive and cared enough to have seen the first one in 96 and wanted to see the updated version. And if it works as a kid's movie, that's fine. But a lot of that audience ain't going to be kids. At least not in my opinion. I don't know. Like, I just feel like there are other things. There's a whole lot of stuff on Disney Plus. There's a whole lot of stuff that kids can watch. And I just don't know that Space Jam 2 was the thing. I don't know how many people are that tuned in, how many kids are that tuned into it. Maybe I'm not watching Nickelodeon all the time, so I don't know whether or not they're advertising Space Jam incessantly or what. But that seemed to be a flawed premise from the start. I understand why the first one was made the way that it was, but this one's almost like it should be made for adults.
I think the theory is that you get the nostalgic adult to take their kids.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how Star Wars keeps getting passed down through generations, right? Like, kids aren't actively seeking out Star Wars. It's just that their parents like the first trilogy, so here comes the prequels and all the cartoons with it, and then eventually you then indoctrinate that next generation with the next trilogy. But this one, just, it feels like if you're an adult going to it, you're being like, this is bad. I'm not showing my kids this. But
right.
As with all things on HBO Max, I feel like we've got this syndrome kind of like Justice League, where we see about a movie coming out on HBO Max, and we all kind of sit around and we're, I don't know, we hear about it, we get a little hyped up about it, then we hear about how bad the production is going. Then the reviews come out, and it's a bomb, and a lot of people just end up watching because they're like, all right, this sounds bad, I might as well see what happens. They all come away and say, yeah, wow, that sucked. And then we all forget about it in 2 weeks, which is kind of merciful. It's that there's something honest and pure about that, rather than if this was like a Disney production, this would have been tied into like every ESPN broadcast for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree with that part. Like that we would have seen somehow. We would have seen Looney Tunes characters on the floor during the NBA Finals. They'd have found a way. I mean, they had that 3D Raptors thing underneath the goal for a while there that was always so distracting to me. They could have found a way to just CGI or superimpose that in the midst of the NBA Finals, especially if you would have gotten a boring series, which we haven't. That might have actually enhanced things. perhaps Giannis wouldn't have been able to pull the block that he pulled on DeAndre Ayton in Game 4 against the Tasmanian Devil. I'm not entirely sure, but it's possible. Space Jam, I don't know. It just, I full disclosure, I've never seen the original. I do plan at some point to do that. Right now, I'm trying to clear off my pile of shame. Just stuff that I feel like I should have seen. Godfather, I told you, I finally saw The Godfather yesterday for the first time. And I've got a few others that are just like, these need to be knocked off my list. I don't need to know that I haven't seen these things. It's preposterous. Godfather 2 is the next thing I've got to obviously watch. But the original Space Jam. And then maybe, you know what? I probably will end up watching the new one just to see it, just for the point of reference of it. The other thing is, and I noticed this, I went to HBO Max. I was just like, well, all right, well, maybe I can just queue up the 96 one. I can watch that, kill a little bit of time. Unless I'm mistaken, it's not there. The original isn't there for me to find. Maybe it's on a different service, and I need to just kind of Google it out. But usually when the new thing is there, the old one is available from the same service to encourage kind of overlapping and crossover and that kind of thing. And I did not happen to see that in this case. And I feel like if you had Space Jam 2, that you would also immediately recommend Space Jam, and it would be on the front page, and it was not of HBO Max. So I don't know. Well, I don't know how it's going to do in terms of money made. Hulu is where it is. Yeah, that's just interesting to me.
I think that was something weird too. I was going around HBO Max trying to find the original, but yeah, it's our wonderful streaming world where nothing is where you hope to find it.
Yeah, exactly right. And then it's not where you hope to find it. It's not where it should be, and then it disappears. You put it on the watch list, and it expires. You're like, oh, well, they've lost the license. Now it's on this streaming service. I've said before, eventually somebody's going to figure out, we could just put all these things together and sell it for one price, and we can call it cable. It'll be a magical thing. Not magical. Yeah, I'm telling you.
Wow.
You got to do it. Hey, I just heard Owen Wilson. That was Owen Wilson, was it not?
Yeah, I've got like 8 of his wows on my board.
Owen Wilson, who I hadn't seen in a while, in maybe the best television show of the year. Certainly one of them with Loki, which came to an end. And unlike Space Jam, universal acclaim pretty much for Loki. And for good reason. Not universal acclaim, ESPN's NBA Finals halftime report. In the time that I have used to speak the last probably 3 or 4 sentences on this show, that's the analysis. That's the amount of time that you actually get for basketball analysis during halftime. I read a piece at Awful Announcing that basically suggested, and kind of it had the numbers to back all of this up. Literally 12 minutes of commercials. And over 75% of the halftime is just ads. This was a breakdown in Game 4, real quickly. 4.5 minutes of commercials. Then comes a thrilling moment of the game, 15-second highlight in the middle. Halftime crew does analysis combined for 1 total minute. Maria Taylor throws it to Jalen Rose. He talks for 9.8 seconds. Jay Williams talks for 9.3 seconds. Adrian Wojnarowski for 9.9 seconds. Then brought to you by, and then the segment was over. That entire deal was less than a minute. And then there were 4 more minutes of commercials. They come back from that and do 30 seconds of highlights that are sponsored. So you've got ad reads there. Then you get 4.5 minutes of commercials. 1 minute of locker room video and analysis from the booth crew. All of this in 1 minute. And then the third quarter starts. That is a halftime. That is nuts. Like, I don't like their crew. I haven't liked the way they've tried to do this for a long time. And it's not because of the timing and all that. It's just because I've seen it done so well on TNT, it's hard to try to compare what they do. But we're talking about, you have analysts that don't have time to analyze. I think TNT had 48% of their halftime was commercials. We're talking over 75% on ESPN. That's just dumb. That's tune out kind of stuff right there, which I'm usually doing anyway. But can you imagine actually sitting through that? 12 minutes of commercials and maybe a minute and a half of actual usable content? I hope they fixed it last night. I didn't see halftime, so I don't know. But that's about as bad of a structure as you can imagine. And they're just raking in the dough. So they don't care, but it's not helping that product at all. And I don't even know why there was a spat over who was actually going to host that thing or why anybody even wanted to host that thing, because what do you have time to do? Absolutely nothing. I'm Jason Martin, and this is Fox Sports Radio. So the original Space Jam is on HBO Max. Matt Lawson sent me a tweet at JMart Radio and said, hey, it is on HBO Max. I searched it, and he's right. I don't know why it's not it should be like one of the first things that's advertised.
It's pretty
the original 96 Space Jam. Yeah, I had to go search, and there it is, yes. 1 hour and 27 minutes, and the geniuses in 2021 are thinking, you know what? You know what the problem with the first Space Jam was? Way too short. Got to expand that thing out. Let's make it 2 hours and give 55 or 60 minutes of the basketball game. We want to really spend time on the court with the game itself. But the original is there, so it's time to get that off the pile of shame next. The pop culture pile of shame, probably the head of it for a long time for me is The Godfather. It no longer is. I can't say I haven't seen The Godfather because yesterday I saw The Godfather. And as I've known for pretty much my entire adult life, I would love it when I saw it, and indeed I did, and now I'm looking forward to watching the second one, and probably still trying to avoid watching the third one because I know it's not good. Just like I know Space Jam A New Legacy is not good, or Next Legacy, or whatever it's called, but I probably will watch it for reference sake. But 2 hours is a lot to ask, knowing that it's not good. I'll tell you what is good, Discover. Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. That's amazing because Discover's accepted at 99% of places in the U.S. to take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report limitations apply. So we'll take it a little bit further. The pop culture pile of shame is a topic that I like because we're all guilty. We all have those things that we know we probably should have seen. You get into conversations with people, they start talking about something, you just kind of nod your head like, I haven't seen this, but I can't let them know it because I know I should have seen this. The Godfather, it's nuts that I'm 42 and have written about movies and television for a decade and hadn't seen that. I know that. Space Jam, just from a cultural touchstone perspective, I was a junior in high school when that came out. Really wasn't. It just felt like, yeah, it's a little bit childish at that point in time. But now I'd like to go back and see it, I think. Just again, for reference, if nothing else. And I'm sure it's fun for what it is. I'll give another one. At my age, like I said, I graduated high school in 97. I'm in college. And there are a couple on my pile of shame that I have seen. They've been on in the room that I've been in. I've actually sat down for the purpose of potentially watching them, but I've never paid close attention. I've only seen bits and pieces or half of it, or there's conversations going on, so I've never really sat there and seen it. Boondock Saints is one of those, which at my age, because of when I was in college, will upset a lot of people just because it was one of those films everybody was watching at the time. And another one, which I actually just put on a watch list, was another one that I've been in a room that's been on many times and have not just sat there and watched it start to finish, is Boys in the Hood. Those are, I think those just right off the top of my head leap out as near the top, I would say, of my pile of shame now. Godfather was the top. No longer can I say that. So I guess I can say The Godfather Part 2, at least until probably Monday or Tuesday, because I'm going to watch it over the next few days. But it's a fun topic to do. You can tweet me at JMar Radio. What's on your pop culture pile of shame? What is it that you know you should have seen, you just haven't? And you really don't want to admit to it, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it therapy style here on the Jason Martin Show this morning. You can admit to it now. What is it you haven't seen? And then maybe we can all kind of encourage one another to get over these things by watching them. All right, Chris, what's on yours?
So I'll start with the small cell first, and I'm going to go to one that's probably going to break your brain. So the small cell for me is that, as I keep saying, I love 2D animation. I'm a big Japanese animation fan, too. I like watching anime. I've only seen 2 Studio Ghibli films, though. I've only seen Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away. And I think part of that is hipster brain, because I know there's a lot of Americans who only see Ghibli movies and not any other anime. So I haven't seen stuff like Howl's Moving Castle or Kiki's Delivery Service or anything like that. I just haven't, or My Neighbor Totoro. I just haven't seen any of that stuff. What's going to break your brain, though, is my TV record.
Wait a second. Wait a second. We're going to get there, but HBO Max has all of them, right?
I know. I have them all on my watch list. I just need to start piling through them. Yeah, I know. I see them all on there. My TV list, I can cut into a little bit with HBO Max, but part of this was I just never really had good patience to watch a lot of prestige TV. I haven't seen Mad Men.
Oh, dear.
I haven't seen Breaking Bad.
Oh, dear.
I haven't seen all that. Remember when we started this? I started the show with you. You guys were all talking Game of Thrones. I haven't seen any of Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. What other prestige TV do you have? I've seen a little bit of Sopranos, but
The Wire?
Haven't seen The Wire.
Deadwood?
Nope.
The Shield?
No.
Justified?
No.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah,
Friday Night Lights.
No, I haven't seen it. You can keep throwing this at me. I do not see a lot of TV. This is all a blank space for me.
Good Lord. Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, man. I saw 2 episodes of the new one. But, yeah, no. This is the worst part, too, is you can knock out a movie like Godfather in an afternoon.
Yes.
These TV shows,
yeah, you got trouble.
I'm in real trouble. I'm in real danger here.
Well, that's amazing, man. You said you've seen little bits of The Sopranos?
Little bits. I can't recall anything off the top of my head because it was so long ago. And I saw Band of Brothers as well because one of my dorm mates had the DVD set. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that was 2010s prestige TV when everything was taking off, I just didn't have the time. I was kind of trying to get back and finishing college, and I was just I have no interest in watching.
So your
TV
priorities
series.
Are wrong, is what you're saying.
Probably. Yeah, probably. Now, I like watching a lot of bad TV. You probably asked me about the canceled Netflix series Marco Polo.
Oh, dear.
But
how many times did I say "oh dear" in this segment?
Yeah, this is a dark hole. So I hope our listeners out there are no longer ashamed of whatever their pile of shame is, because I have a mountain.
Do you have interest in watching those series?
Maybe, but I'm also not. I guess I'm not as much of a fan of kind of crime series like The Wire. My interest is always in science fiction and fantasy and very nerdy stuff. I'll probably try to go see Battlestar Galactica at some point, but the rest of this is I don't know. I look at it, and again, I'm looking at multiple seasons that I would have to power through.
Yeah, look, it can become a real daunting task. Binging television shows. It can also become a lot of fun, and you can lose yourself in it to some degree. But yeah, that might be the worst pile of shame I've ever heard, because the television side of it. I'm good on
a lot of movies, but track record on TV shows is it's below the Mendoza line.
Nick, pile of shame for you.
So when it comes to movies, the 2 that really stick out, the first one's Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then the other one is Neverending Story.
Okay.
I've never seen those. They're on my list. It's just getting around to them. But with TV, it's bad. For the most part, I haven't seen The Wire. I've been meaning to get into it for a while. I haven't seen Oz. I haven't seen Fargo.
Fargo's terrific.
Yeah,
that's one I have seen is Fargo. So
the movie or the show?
Both.
Okay.
I have not seen both. Peaky Blinders I've not gotten into on Netflix. Yeah, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. There's just there's a lot of television that I have not been able to just sit down and get through. I actually recently, a couple months ago, just started watching Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Well, you got a lot of episodes of that.
Oh, yes. That's
a problem with that series. I enjoyed that series when it was on. I've actually thought about going back and trying to watch that because I would see it at a friend's house. I never actually just tuned in myself, but I was too young to have seen the original Star Trek, and for some reason Picard and that crew, I actually dug that crew. When I saw half an episode, I always appreciated it. All right, guys. You guys, I don't know how to fix your TV problem.
Well, just real quick, as a Trekkie, if I do want to suggest one thing, like I know Next Generation has like the cool crew, but I feel like for modern taste, Deep Space Nine is like the show people always go to, just because it turns into kind of more serialized television near the end.
I didn't watch all of it, but I saw Picard, pieces of it at least. I saw the first handful of episodes, and I wanted to finish it because I enjoyed what I saw of it. I like Patrick Stewart a lot, so that kind of brought me to the dance a bit, but yeah, I've heard good things about Deep Space Nine.
Discovery, I've seen some good stuff about Discovery. It was kind of uneven, but I enjoyed the first season, and I'm going to go and eventually watch the other two.
The TV issue is just one that, I mean, that becomes a lifetime thing for you in some cases. If you're not into the crime stuff, The Wire's probably not something you want to watch. It just depends on your taste. And if you're more of a sci-fi guy, then watch Fringe. There's a lot of things that I could suggest in that arena that are a little bit different that I was a big fan of, but I think it seems nuts. Like, you don't meet a whole lot of people, I think, in our age range that have not really seen The Sopranos or Breaking Bad. Mad Men, I think there are fewer people that have seen Mad Men that are listening to this program that have seen Breaking Bad. I'm positive about that. Breaking Bad's more, I think, the Fox Sports Radio audience, and both those shows are all-time greats in many, many ways. And I would even suggest that Better Call Saul, the spinoff for Breaking Bad, may go down as better than Breaking Bad when it's over, because it's so polished and it's been so good pretty much from the beginning, especially once you got to the second season. I would say that there's a little bit of a slow start in some ways to Breaking Bad originally. I've seen some people that have bailed on it because they didn't get far enough in it, and that happens to a lot of stuff. But television, that's the problem. If that's on your pile of shame, if you got a bunch of television series, that's a problem because you have a life. And if it's network series that you're looking at 24 episode seasons. If it's streaming, you're looking at anywhere from 8 to 12, generally. Sometimes 8 to 13 with some of these Netflix series. I don't know why they all felt like they had to go 13 episodes, but for a while, they did. Let's go to Finley, who is a pile of shame. After that Jrue Holiday nonsense that he pulled in the first hour, where he said, I would never be that much of a homer, when he's got a video with over 200 views on social media right now saying that he should be the MVP of the league. Finley?
Don't tell me I'm wrong once again. You know deep down that while it's going to be skewed, there's a certain set of parameters that they go by, and everybody has more of a preference towards offense, that there's no way, if you're going to pick the X factor in this series, it's Jrue Holiday. Unfortunately, he won't win it. But if it's one person vouching for him who might do a radio show for UCLA, it might be me.
Stop it. Get some help.
Yes.
Hey, that was Jordan.
That was Jordan.
Yeah. All right, so what's going on, Finley? And then I do want to hear about your polish.
Okay, yeah, I want to get to that. But yeah, so we have Open Championship golf that's taking place right now. Bryson DeChambeau currently on the second hole. He is +2, and he is attempting a birdie as we speak, and it comes up just short, about 4 feet.
Oh, I hate to see it.
Yeah, I hate to see it. So he'll try to put that one in from about 4 feet for a par. A thing that's different between Bryson DeChambeau and Jason Martin is that Jason Martin, when he ducks his drive, doesn't look at the equipment and say, "Why did you do that to me?"
Yeah, I'm not really I'm not a guy that usually says the driver sucks.
Yeah.
Especially when wearing that hat.
Are you the guy, Jason, that when you were playing Little League Baseball, that you would play in the infield, you would hold your glove to the ground ball would come right to you, and then it would go right between your legs, and then you would look at your glove and say, where's the hole in the glove? There had to be something there.
Yeah, you have to look at the glove so that you can avoid making eye contact with teammates and or parents and or girls you wanted to date. Like, at that point in time, it's like, it's either the glove is basically staring into the bleak heart of a broken soul.
Oh, that's deep. I like that. The Bucks last night seized a 3-2 lead in the NBA Finals after stuffing the Suns 123-119 in Game 5. Drew Holiday's defense showing up in a big way. He rips the ball away from Devin Booker when the Suns had a chance to win it late. Holiday then led the break and fed Giannis Antetokounmpo for the alley-oop. Giannis, a team-high 32 points. Booker had 40. Afterwards, Suns head coach Monty Williams applauding the play of Holiday.
Great play by Drew. You know, I don't have any other words for that one. I just watched it, and he just makes a great play. Yeah, that was it. Short and sweet. Game 6 is on Tuesday in Milwaukee as the Bucks try to close out the series. The Padres-Nationals contest on Saturday was stopped in the 6th inning when gunfire rang out directly outside of the Nats stadium. 2 cars pulled up in front of the ballpark and exchanged shots. The incident injured 3 people, including 1 female who was at the game. Now, San Diego Union Tribune's columnist Kevin Acee quoted a fan at the game who described the madness, the chaos that was ensuing inside the stadium while this was happening. And it was reported, quote, "I looked out on the field and saw Fernando Tatis run down the third baseline, grab 2 kids, and take them to the dugout. Then he went back and got 2 more," close quote. There were reports that Tatis and Manny Machado, Jason, while this was happening and the gunshots were being fired outside, that they opened up the infield to let people be sheltered in the dugout while this was happening and taking kids. Think about that for a second. Yeah. What a classy move by those 2 and many others who were part of that. And the game that was stopped will be finished up later today, 1:05 Eastern, and then they will have the series finale right after that. Couple notes from other scores. The Dodgers 9-2 winners against the Rockies. The Braves with a 9-0 shellacking of the Rays. Yes. And the Cardinals, Jason likes that because he's a Braves fan. And the Cardinals overwhelmed the Giants 3-1. Paul Goldschmidt, 3 hits, 2 RBI in the affair. So now I want to weigh in here on what you guys were talking about.
Yeah, pile of shame, Finley. I'm almost afraid to ask what it is that you have not seen that you are kind of embarrassed to admit you haven't seen.
This is my nightmare.
Well, can I say that there's one thing I did see that has really been a help for me? There was this one date I went to. Well, we went on a date. She came back to my place, and I put on Saving Private Ryan.
I knew this is what you were doing.
The first 20 minutes of that movie, she spent the night, and it went well.
What do you mean it went well?
The date.
Okay. Look, man, there's no way you watched the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan and that was like, all right, head to the bedroom.
It never happened. It's a total fabrication.
Dude, that is a horse drowning in quicksand, which is something Nick doesn't know because he hasn't seen The Never-Ending Story.
Horrifying scene. I hate it.
It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. I can't believe that was in a movie that was supposed to be for children.
We were talking, speaking of that, we were talking during the break, like, that's up there with all of the monsters from the Dark Crystal and, like, half of The Secret of Nim. Just stuff that's, like, made for children, but just I would never put my kid down in front of it. It would give them nightmares.
And Vigo the Carpathian still bothers me from Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, see it. Did you ever read, I think it was the old Deadspin, they did like a whole profile on the actor who did Vigo the Carpathian. It's a really awesome read.
Yeah, I want to say I might have seen that. I just remember the real Vigo scared the daylights out of me.
The eyes and just...
Yes, something about it, just that whole thing wrecked me. All right, Finley, how about you really answer the question now?
Yeah. So I really want to see the Lego Movie 2. I saw the first one. I told you about that, Jason.
Yes.
But I am dying to see the second one. And there is a Lego Star Wars like animation series.
Yes,
and I got some catching up to do with that. And that's
Did you see Lego Batman?
You know what? I have not seen Lego Batman.
You need to see Lego Batman.
I might do a movie Lego marathon when I wake up later today. And that's how I'm going to spend my Sunday.
Lego Batman is one of the best DC films ever.
Anything Lego is the... You know, Jason, have dreams. I have thoughts occasionally So I have these big baskets of Legos underneath my bed. And I'm 32 years old.
In the dream?
Well, yeah, or I dream about playing with Legos, or when I'm awake,
This is my nightmare.
I dream about bringing them out and building fortresses and building castles. Like, I went to the Legoland in England, had the time of my life. There's a Legoland just outside of San Diego. Like, I wouldn't be, like, if I was living in another life, if I was reincarnated, I would want to work at Legoland.
Okay, Finley. Go into the corner and build something.
I will.
Did you say you were 32?
Yeah. What did you think I was younger or older?
No, I thought you were like 45.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Yeah, I thought you were in your 40s or something.
What?
I don't know.
Do I look old? My goodness. Nick, do you believe that?
I'm not gonna lie. You saying Lego 2 is the biggest "Hello there, fellow kids" moment I've ever heard in my
life. Oh man!
Smell that? Smells like someone died.
Oh, I've got to cleanse the palate thinking about the stupid horse in the never-ending story. We'll come back on the other side. The Athletics raising their price. Remember what I told you like a month ago about the Athletic? I said keep an eye on them. I'm not so sure about the future. We'll talk a little bit about that when we come back, and hopefully not about horses drowning in quicksand. I'm Jason Martin, and this is Fox Sports Radio.
The Jaguar F-Type doesn't just go from point A to point B. It takes you places few will ever experience. Climb into the driver-focused cockpit. Start the engine with a simple push of a button, and suddenly it's just you and 575 horsepower. 8 gears shifting. The agile suspension hugging the road. The rest of the world just melting away till everything else becomes a blur. And while the engine is a symphony in itself, feel free to lose yourself in your own soundtrack with the available 825-watt Meridian surround sound system. The Jaguar F-Type, an exhilarating combination of design and performance, makes it like no other sports car in the world. Learn more at JaguarUSA.com.
Welcome back. I'm Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. Down in a Hole, Alice in Chains. Best song on Dirt for my money. Maybe still my favorite Alice in Chains song. I'm still thinking about a horse being drowned in quicksand in a never-ending story. I watched The Godfather yesterday, and there's the horse head scene, obviously. And I still think the quicksand scene is worse.
Stop it. Get some help.
Legit think that's worse.
It is.
Because that film was for children. Now, the never-ending story, like, you go back and watch that. Like, I remember watching that with, like, a church group or something. It was just kind of like, I don't know about this. This thing's a little bit much. And I remember the old Simpsons joke from Lionel Hutz, the attorney, that he's got a case for false advertising against the people that made the never-ending story. Because, indeed, it was not never-ending, just like the Gobstopper was not everlasting. But we'll stick with this for a second. Because, Chris, we were talking about other things that were creepy. And I mentioned Vigo the Carpathian, and you mentioned The Secret of Nim.
The Garthrim from the Dark Crystal, which is like the scuttling crab puppets, yeah.
Probably the scariest scenes that I recall in film, the eyes from Vigo the Carpathian, and there was a scene in Zodiac, the David Fincher treatment about the Zodiac killer, where there was a couple having a picnic on a hill in daylight, and the Zodiac killer just rolled up and just brutally murdered them, and did so just totally unfeeling, and it's such an uncomfortable scene because it absolutely looks like it could have happened anywhere, at any time. Like I said, if it's at night, it's almost more there, but like in the midst of daytime, just walking up, no words, and just doing that. The other one that I would mention, film that came out like 2008, I think. It was somewhere in there. The Strangers. And just somebody showing up at your front door, torturing and killing the family or whatever, and you're screaming at them, you're asking them why, and they just say, because you were home. And it's just like, that's the scariest line I think I've ever heard in a movie in my life. Because that's just like, that's just pure evil. But we're talking about the never-ending story. We're talking about horses drowning in quicksand in a kid's movie. The Secret of NIMH, that was animated, obviously. The Dark Crystal was Jim Henson. Like, there's a lot of things were different back in the day. We'll just say that.
Yeah, look, like, I could probably come up with some stuff like Funny Games. Some of the stuff that happens in Funny Games, the original one, is disturbing, but as you say, these are all like kids' movies we're going through here. There's definitely probably something about the effects of the time or just how some of the stories went, and yeah, I don't. Just thinking about it,
stuff changed, man.
Childhood trauma, yeah, absolutely. But
yeah, because Pixar, I can't think of anything in Pixar other than Lotto and Toy Story 3, which I thought was a little bit dark. But even that had like this very happy turn at the end. Like, Pixar is relentlessly positive. Like, there's nothing in a Pixar film where I can go back and just be like, that shouldn't have been there. Yeah, that was super creepy.
Some of those toys in the first Toy Story were a little creepy, but
yeah, the Sid toys.
Yeah.
And then all of them turned out to be nice and all of that kind of thing. Yeah. Kids' films back in the day, they were trying to toughen you up. They were like the old NBA rules. Lambeer and Mahorn back in the day. Now you've got Jason Tatum and Bradley Beal not thrilled they're not calling touch fouls in international basketball. Toughen up, Pixar. We'll be back with the third hour.
Fox Sports Radio has the best sports talk lineup in the nation. Catch all of our shows at foxsportsradio.com. And within the iHeartRadio app, search FSR to listen live.
Mattress Warehouse knows that buying a mattress can be tough. With so many choices, where do you start? Introducing Bed Match, a patented diagnostic system that determines your pressure points and recommends the mattresses that are best for your individual sleep needs. And it's found only at Mattress Warehouse. Come try Bed Match at a Mattress Warehouse near you. Visit sleephappens.com for locations and get free next day delivery on select purchases.
Mattress Warehouse, sleephappens.com.
What's happening? Third hour of the program is upon us. I'm Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. You can find me on social media on Twitter at JMartRadio. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Nick Battaglia, Brian Finley, Chris Perfett in L.A. They're the trifecta. They're spinning the Dodge radio style for me. We are brought to you by Discover. Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. That's amazing. Discover's accepted 99% of places in the U.S. to take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report limitations apply. Bucks win Game 5. One away from a championship. Drew Holiday will probably never make a play more important than the one he made on Saturday night, late stripping Devin Booker and then throwing the alley-oop to Giannis Antetokounmpo on the other side. As a matter of fact, that play right there, now we have to find out what happens on Tuesday and if there's a Game 7, what happens in Game 7. But, because here's the thing, like, we remember Jared Suggs and what he did for Gonzaga, right? Like, we remember the shot that put him in the championship game. But it's not going to have the same effect because they went ahead and got blown out by Baylor in the championship game. If the Bucks go on to win the series, you can potentially point back to that play and say that's the play that won them the championship. All the points that they've scored, and as great as everybody has played, that's the play that had to happen. That's the play that would lead them to go up 3, and then after the rebound to Middleton, go up 4 and win the game. That strip of a guy that had 40 points in the game by Jrue Holiday, who's played exquisite defense throughout the series, and then finding Antetokounmpo, who is one of the few humans, if you call him human, extraterrestrials, whatever it is, that allows him to do the kinds of things he does. I think it's worthy of saying he might be an alien. That play was perfect, but I think that sequence might be the one you look back on if Milwaukee finishes this and say that's where they won the championship right there. Sometimes it can be something that close. And here's the thing. They lost the champion. They could have lost the championship if Kevin Durant was one shoe size smaller, because they wouldn't have even been in this series to begin with. But that's not how it played out. Sometimes you got to be lucky. Sometimes you got to be good. That first time, I'd say they were lucky. Last night, they were good. Drew Holiday, that was just a fantastic play. He had 27 points in the game. So he gave you absolutely everything that you needed him to give you on the floor. You couldn't have asked for more for Booker other than the fact that to get 40 points, he had to take 33 shots. That's not efficient. Now, it's still 40 points. He still shot over 50%, but he was 17 of 33. Problem with that 40 was he's just not going to the free throw line very much. He was 4 or 5 from the line. That was it. They were 91% from the stripe, but they only took 11 free throws in the game. Matter of fact, the Bucks didn't take many either. They were 9 of 17, which is a terrible shooting performance, but when you've got Giannis going 4 of 11, that's what's going to happen. But there were only a combined 28 free throws shot in the entire game. That seems like not a lot for a 4-quarter NBA Finals game. But Holiday with a plus 14 on the floor, 27, 13 assists. He's 12 of 20 from the field. He's 50% from threes, 3 of 6 from beyond the arc. Just 2 turnovers in the game. He was the best point guard on the floor in a game that also included Chris Paul, and he made the play of the game. That was a hell of a night for him. It really was. Middleton gave you 29, and Giannis gives you 32, so you get your 2 guys that have to perform. Not one of them, both of them have to perform. They go for 61 combined on 26 of 46 shooting. And then when Holiday gives you what Holiday gives you, you're going to be in pretty good shape. Still, it was only a 4-point game. It was just a well-played ball game. A lot of guys showed out. The guys that you pay to see and the guys that the teams paid to perform all did so. Giannis 32, Middleton 29, Holiday 27, Booker 40, Paul 21, 8 and 20. It's been a good series, and it seems to be getting better as it goes along, which is why my fingers are crossed for 7. Not because I want to see Milwaukee lose, per se, just because I want to extend the series so we can get a couple more games. It wasn't as good to me in the first couple of games as it has been here in this last few, but boy, I thoroughly enjoyed last night's game. That's the best NBA game I have seen since Nets-Bucks Game 7. That went into overtime. And definitely on the short list of one of the better games I've seen in the NBA in a while. It was just shots and plays being made on both sides, and then it came down to a great defensive play that led to an unbelievable alley-oop on the other side to get it done. You'll take that absolutely all day. The question still is, if Phoenix can't get it done this year, was this a one-year proposition? The stars aligned. They've been healthier than most everybody else. Their pathway to the NBA Finals was easier. I'm not going to say easy because it's never easy. Easier than it could have been in multiple rounds. And they took advantage of that. They get to the NBA Finals. You go into Game 5. You've got it at home. And there, you're just not quite good enough because the Bucks were just better. It's not that the Suns played poorly. It's that Milwaukee they were just a notch better. And sometimes that's the excuse. Like, a lot of times when a loss happens, especially if you're a fan of a team, you are looking to the officiating. You are looking to a reason why it happened. And sometimes the answer is just one team was just a hair better. And that's, I think, what we saw. One more play was made. Sometimes it goes down to who's got the ball last, right? In any sport. Milwaukee, it was one play with 15 seconds left-ish from Jrue Holiday that was enough. And now the Bucks are on the precipice of a championship. And what that would mean for their organization And I'm sure that's Giannis is one of those where it's like, all right, if not this year, then when in the current configuration, then you start looking at guys like Damian Lillard, who's just continually year after year, it's the same thing over and over again, which is why he's not willing to admit he wants a trade yet, but he's calling for urgency when there's not urgency to be found, really. I don't know what they can do for him there that is going to get him where he wants to go, which is to a championship. Now, wherever they trade him, if he's able to control that to some degree, it's still going to take some time. Like, if he ends up with the Knicks or the Knicks of Damian Lillard away from a championship, I don't know. I think they're on the right pathway. But if you're trading Damian Lillard somewhere, they have to give up something in order to get him. Whether that's draft capital or a mix of draft capital and a star player, I imagine the Blazers would want a starter and a solid starter in order to pass up Lillard or to let him walk, to trade him away. But Giannis is somebody where, well, if he wasn't going to win, eventually he was going to leave. He wins a championship if he leaves. Well, he won them a title, so Milwaukee can't be too upset if he were to leave, but maybe you don't want to leave. Maybe you doesn't have to leave if he wins the championship. Only problem with the championship this year is there are going to be some that are going to throw the old asterisk by it, which, I just roll my eyes. Like, whatever. Championships come the way they come. You throw the asterisk on the Raptors a couple of years ago when Kawhi won it, because of the circumstances of that whole situation? Or have you forgotten about it, but you do remember that the Raptors won the championship? That, I think the pandemic means it's going to be harder to forget some of the things that have happened over the past few years. But I think you just have to take reality and accept it for what it is. The world changed, but things still happened. Champions were still crowned. This year, uncanny health problems and injuries, whether you want to blame the offseason being a little bit shorter or whatever it is. It's just been unfortunate. But I can't place an asterisk by it. Especially in the case of Milwaukee, because Milwaukee has had to deal, for the most part, with what they would have expected. Now, with the Nets, if the Nets are full strength, I don't know if anybody beat the Nets. So if you want to make that argument and say, well, since that happened, since they didn't have everybody the entire time, we have to throw an asterisk by it. I just don't think it's that simple, because I just feel like you can always throw an asterisk by something just about every year, because something's happened in the regular season that's changed the space-time continuum, if you want to go there, for the rest of the season across that league. Something's happened in some game. Some call was made. Somebody got hurt at some point. Like, I think there's always fallbacks where you could try to excuse away or try to diminish an accomplishment. I just kind of shrug my shoulders and say, yeah, whatever. If the Bucks get this done on Tuesday, they're a worthy champion. Phoenix had a hell of a regular season. I remember seeing Vegas was fading Phoenix, and they were fading Utah, and they were fading one other team, Portland maybe it was, or Dallas. Just teams that had good regular seasons, but the thought was it's all about effort, and those teams cared, unlike the star-laden teams that were doing all the management and load management and everything else. And so when the effort became absolute across the board, then those teams, the regular seasons didn't matter, which I thought was horrible for the game, and said I kind of hope that a Phoenix would make it to the NBA Finals just to show that the regular season might not be completely irrelevant. Problem is, you can still make the same argument because of the injuries that Phoenix didn't ever have to see one of those teams at full strength that you would have thought were going to be better, even if the record didn't indicate it during the regular season. So those are all things. I don't know how much is going to be speculated. I don't know how many people are going to talk about it after the fact. If Milwaukee wins, if Phoenix goes ahead to win 2 games in a row, then they're going to have earned it in this series. Whoever wins this series is going to have earned it because they've all had to play. And it's still pretty amazing to me that Giannis is playing at all, considering what we saw happen to him. I thought it felt like at first that his season was over. Then it felt like he's definitely going to miss a couple of weeks. And he barely missed any time at all. And now he's out here being himself. And the alley-oop, it's just one of those moments where it's just like, all right, this dude does play on another planet, doesn't he? He, at his size, the way he moves, it's like ballet. He glides. There was always the talk about Shaquille O'Neal in Orlando. Like, people remember Shaq when he put on a little bit more weight. But Shaq in Orlando and Shaq at LSU, but particularly when he was in Orlando, the phrase was he ran like a deer at his size. Giannis, well, it's fear the deer here. Giannis is shredded, and his strides are insane. It's because of that he was able to recover and make that insane block in the 4th game of this series the other night. It is crazy just to watch some of the talent that we're able to see on a daily or certainly on a weekly basis when it comes to sports. Like, we saw Ohtani and the home run derby and everything on Monday night, and just everything was going back and forth in that. We're seeing so much that's mind-blowing. I look at Giannis at his size, and I'm just like, dude, if he's going to do stuff like that, what are you supposed to do? I want to tackle a completely different question when we come back out of this break. Now, this is one where we could crowdsource. We could have done this at the beginning of the show and just done it for 3 hours. But you're thinking about Giannis, and I'm thinking to myself, and I was talking about at the end of last hour, rule changes and FIBA rules and how some of the NBA players are miffed they're not calling touch fouls like they do in the NBA. They're letting a lot more go, to which I say I wish the NBA would follow the FIBA instead of the reverse. Doesn't mean I need to see Rick Mahorn clotheslining somebody going down the lane. But what guys that play today could go back and play in the past? And you look at Giannis and the way he's built, and it's like, could Giannis do it? I don't know, because I don't know how physical people would be with him back in the day. But I want to talk about football, which is something we've basically not done at all tonight. What football player let's say 1998, somewhere in that range, before 1998, could still be dominating today? ESPN put out their list of, the 50 executives and people inside football ranking top 10 at all these positions. And you're looking at guys, and I'm like, I wonder if that guy could play in the past. Well, I want to flip it and say who from the past could still be dominating today based on what you've seen change in the game, how the rules have changed, the speed, the size, all of that. Who from a previous generation in the NFL could still crush it today? That's a topic I want to hit when we come back. You can tweet me your thoughts at JMartRadio. I'll certainly bring in the guys in LA for this discussion as well, and we'll do that next. I'm Jason Martin, and this is Fox Sports Radio. Wow, Danzig, huh?
That's right.
I'm Jason Martin. This is Fox Sports Radio. On Twitter at JMartRadio.